Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new episode of the All Is Not Well podcast. आज हम बात कर रहे हैं करण वर्मा के साथ. Karan Verma is the author of two national best-selling novels. Karan is also a public speaker, a motivational speaker, entrepreneur, and also a political analyst. So, ज़्यादा time now waste करते हुए, let's get straight into the interview. Hi, Karan.
Hi, Rajdeep.
I hope you and your family are doing well and keeping safe.
Absolutely. And I wish the same for you. And I know you're doing good.
I'm doing well.
I know that.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Same here.
Now, because, you are a public speaker and you help a lot of people who are trying to join politics and help them in the public speaking avenue.
Right.
मुझे जो entire episode है, this is based around public speaking.
Okay.
There are some questions that are related to, becoming an author.
All right.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you was, do you think there are any specific skills that make you a good public speaker?
I think there are. There are some things you're born with. Some things are innate. But I think the right attitude, whether you are constantly driven to learn, I think that itself is a skill. Being driven. In the 21st century now, especially post 2020, the skills that are going to matter are going to be here. How mentally tough you are, how emotionally intelligent you are, and how much you're able to learn. It's all about learning quickly. I meet so many people, who go from here till here in a matter of 2-3 years, and others remain stuck there. So it's about how hungry you are. Of course, there are certain skills you'll be born with, and self-awareness is important. What are the things that are meant for you and what are the things that are not meant for you? Not everybody is supposed to be cool. Not everybody is supposed to be funny. Not everybody is supposed to be impactful when I talk about public speaking. So it's about understanding your genre. And then once you're aware of it, then going full hog over it. Then your effort comes in. So it's a mixture of skills, temperament, and knowing yourself.
It's interesting you mentioned that 2020 ke baad, the skills that people thought were important are changing at a very dramatic pace. There's an individual called 𝗥𝗷𝗱𝗶𝗴𝗵 Lee. He's the investor in a leading AI firm. And he mentions that a majority of the jobs, जो अभी हमारे पास jobs हैं, 5 से 10 साल में, these will be automated and these will be, somewhat disrupted by AI. So things like public speaking, having acute self-awareness, these are some of the skills that will help no matter what profession you want to go to. Based on what you just said, when it comes to public speaking, आपके हिसाब से, what is more important? Is it the content you're talking about, or is it the way you speak?
I think it's both, to be honest. One cannot survive without the other. But I know of a lot of people who have amazing content to deliver, but it becomes a snore fest in a matter of minutes. People are leaving, people are yawning, and it's quite an embarrassing sight. And that's when I feel, it's a shame that this guy doesn't know how to deliver it. Because he has the content, he has the knowledge, but nobody's interested. So, public speaking is not a con job where if you don't have content, you can get away with flowery language. No. It's meant for those who have something to speak. It's the art of speaking sense, Of course, there are different genres to it. Even a stand-up comedian is a public speaker in a way, right? Everybody in some way or the other is a public speaker, whether that public is confined to 2 people in a boardroom where you're negotiating, or it's about 50 people who you're addressing and, galvanizing for a specific purpose of yours, or even if you're marketing. And public speaking in today's day and age, Rajdeep, it's something that we're doing every day, every minute of the time. Gone are the days when people could get away with putting a good product out. Today, if that product doesn't have a voice and a personality of its own, and if it's not hammered across all platforms, it will not percolate through. Simple. People now want storytellers. There's a reason why advertisers are struggling today. And social media is on the boom. Because now people are not going to be, hey, buy cheese, it's good here. No. You have to build a story around it. You have to constantly engage me with your communication. And then only will I be intrigued into your story. So I think it's an age of storytellers, and no storytelling is complete without you
True.
being an effective public speaker.
I mean, the storytelling as a profession during the time of Romans, this was the most regarded profession, and somehow it has been lost as we've been growing. But now I think it is coming back because more and more people, आजकल क्या हो रहा है कि everyone knows everything. So unless you can hook into the emotions, you're not be as an advertiser, you're not going to work as a public speaker. It's not going to work. And another thing I like about what you just said is that doesn't matter if you're speaking to one person or 1,000. You're always practicing public speaking, and as a result, you need to start. I mean, you need to have the content, which is the main requirement. But just having good content isn't enough. You need to take that content and deliver it in a way that excites, or it sort of motivates the listening party.
It's funny, Rajdeep. I do a lot of, storytelling sessions with a lot of senior corporate people, politicians. And what I start with? I start with something very basic. And to all your viewers, I'll say you should try this. The 2-3 things I try out. Number one, supposing I don't know you, Rajdeep. Tell me your story in 1 minute, so that I am intrigued to know more about you. I have zilch knowledge about you. So whether it's me, Karan, or you, Rajdeep, how do you tell your story in 60 seconds? Where do you come from? What do you stand for? I mean, what's the good thing about you? So that at the end of 60 seconds, I'm desirous of knowing more. And you'll be surprised. You ask people to do that. I do that at a large level exercises. They fumble. They fumble so crazily that in fact, they have good stories to tell. They have had quite a life, but they're not able to sum up. What used to be elevator's pitch, what is elevator's pitch, right? You have to pitch in the elevator. They just don't know what to say, what not to say. And that is in itself an art. Another thing I start with is, what's your favorite movie? So supposing for you, it's Three Idiots, hypothetically. So tell me the story of Three Idiots in 60 seconds so that I want to watch it. Don't give me the plot completely. So now you'll be in a fix. How much to tell? How much not to tell? At what note should I leave it? And that's exactly what life is all about. At dinner parties, at cool parties, there are some cool people, who are like that magnet in those parties. And we say, oh, they are the life of the party. How are they the life of the party? Because they're good conversationists. They're good storytellers. So this is the biggest skill, I believe, of 2020, 2021, and it's going to be relevant forever. Because even if you have AI dominating and calling the shots, you'll still need a team of humans to run that company. You'll still need some humans to control those robots. And those humans amongst themselves, they have to have the right temperament, when to stop, when to begin, what to communicate. This is a priceless craft.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. But, as you said, कि हमारी जो 2020 है और इसके आगे skills like public speaking and creativity, these are increasing at a rapid pace. But usi time pe kya ho raha hai ki we've started living in a very political correct society. Aapne ek galat cheez keh di, there's someone with a video camera, and all of a sudden, you've ruined your whole career. So according to your expertise, what are some of the ways, because you deal with politicians, how do you address these different types? Say, I'll give you an example. Say if someone is a BJP supporter and they're speaking at a large conference, उसमें Congress के भी हैं, आम आदमी पार्टी के भी supporters हैं. So how do you speak at that position? Which sort of, how do you speak to religious groups or political parties, etc.?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think first of all, you need to have empathy for everyone. If you have contempt deep down brewing inside you, or you're filled with rage, then it's not going to do you any good. Intentionally or unintentionally, words are going to come out which you are going to regret, or which will ruffle feathers or rub them the wrong way, and it will lead to no conclusion. You have to first bring people to the point. That's what I say. I say connect and then convey. A lot of people don't connect, they start conveying. So for me, the strategy is always, and it's not just a strategy, it's a natural extension of who I am. I connect with people first. That, okay, let's seek common ground first. Where are we connecting or where are we not connecting? And then slowly there's a way of putting across your points. And I am the kind of person who doesn't have one size fits all. There are some individuals who are going to come back nastily at you, even if you're seeking peace, even if you're seeking reconciliation. My advice is give it back to them then. I try to maintain peace, maintain calm, but if the other person is trying to dominate you, assert way too much, then you also have to pay them back in the same coin. That's what I stand for. I mean, of course, there are individuals who have a different personality type. It's about who you are as a person. I can't advise a very soft and an introverted person to go hammer and tongs. It'll fumble. Similarly, a very heated person, I can't be advising him to keep calm all the time. You can't completely overhaul who you are, but you can always do well with what you have. It's all about moderation. Can you curb that one instinct of yours? Can you double down on this one attribute of yours, which can, put you across really well? It's all about that management. And that's what I try to do.
Exactly. And इसी में self-awareness, that's why it's so important. Like, if you're not self-aware of who you are as an individual,
correct.
You make mistakes. So a couple of things you mentioned is that आप पहले connect करने की कोशिश करते हैं, then you try and convey. And this is what Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says the same thing. It's, you need to seek first to understand and then be understood. Whereas society में क्या होता है, it's उल्टा. हम पहले अपने आप को समझाते हैं, फिर थोड़ा बहुत कोशिश करते हैं कि हम समझें. You being an author, you've written 2 national best-selling novels. What's your biggest advice to, say, our listeners who want to become an author?
My biggest advice is that it's a tough trade. It's not, any trade is tough. You have to first understand, are you really cut out for this world? Because writing 250 pages, not knowing whether it's going to see the light of the day or not, investing your blood, sweat and tears, literally writing through the night, it's only going to be worth it if you enjoy the journey. A lot of people, Rajdeep, they see the rosy stuff always. I mean, especially with careers. When I do career advice for students and even professionals, I said, are you enjoying the journey? You'll be surprised. There was a friend of mine. I was in Mumbai, and he was like this passionate guy. I want to make films. Films really excite me and all of that. I invited him over to Film City once, and he saw how a shot was being taken, the nuts and bolts of it. And he was so disgusted by the entire machination because it was slow, tedious, not at all glamorous, nothing so fancy about it. He was put off by it. So only if you love the grind, only if you love the journey, go for it. So first of all, if you really want to be a writer, understand this. Are you ready to put in this much of effort and still have the guts to be rejected? Because you are deeply in love with your craft. To be honest, a writer is deeply in love with his written word and it's suddenly put aside. Will you be able to take it emotionally? Are you that tough enough? Do you enjoy doing it? The biggest thing for me is you should have fun doing what you're doing. That's the whole idea of life. I don't believe in living for the weekends. No. I mean, that's too big a cost. The 5 days of the week or the 70% of my life also is something that should be fun. I mean, I pity the guys who say, I only live for the weekends. I live for every day. So you have to love what you're doing. It should not be an exercise or a task that you're doing. That's not what life is all about. So first understand that. That's my first advice to writers. A lot of them get filtered out at this stage. When they start writing day in, day out, 70% of them feel, no, this is not what we are cut out for. We don't have this much of patience or temperament. Secondly, do you really have a good story to tell? I mean, for that, you have to be dispassionate a bit. You have to be able to objectively judge your work. Listen to people who are close to you and can come up with constructive criticism. Because someone who is 5'8" is not meant to be perhaps that great a basketball player. I'm being honest here, right? So everybody has certain limitations. So are you being realistic? That's the thing. First thing is interest. Now, if you have a tick on the interest, then do you have the capability of it? How much can you improve on this? And the third is the scope. Now, what kind of a scope does it have where you are? If you're in Dubai, it has a different scope. If you're in Mumbai, it has a different scope. If you're in Kanpur, it has a different scope. So then let's weigh the scope. Even if the scope is not there and age is on your side, I would say go full hog. You should always run in the direction of dreams if your interest is genuine and if you have the talent for it. So after I think you put yourself in this framework, you'll have a clear picture of, where you want to go with it.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing advice, especially the one, when you mentioned that success, people aren't in love with the journey. Because, I think success is like an iceberg. Jo glamour hai, that's like the first, the initial 10%. And people look, Shah Rukh Khan ko dekhte and they're like, what a life he has and everything. But people don't realize the rejections, the downsides, or the grind Shah Rukh Khan has to go through to be where he is. And understanding that and being in love with the journey, I think would be the most important thing, regardless of whether you're trying to become an author, if you're trying to become a public speaker, is can you be in love with the journey and not just the destination? So coming back to the topic of public speaking, when we are on the stage, this is something I discussed with Mark Metry, who was on my podcast as well. And he talks about the evolutionary cycle that has led us to, हम अपने आप को दिखाना नहीं चाहते as a result कि हमें tribe से ना फेंक दिया जाए, and that means certain death when we were sort of hunter and gatherers. But now when you're on a public stage, it's the same feeling, it's the same chemicals reacting. So how do we sort of deal with say stage fright or nervousness?
That's a very interesting one. Stage fright, you'd be surprised, Rajdeep. In a Forbes poll, it came out that public speaking is a bigger fear than death. Shocking, but true. I know of educationists, top line leaders who've told me that, my legs literally shiver at the prospect of addressing a gathering. I am so nervous. And I totally empathize with them because I understand that it can be quite nerve-wracking, to say the least, when you are. So my answer to this is that I just don't give attention to this. For me, it's between me and me initially. And their judgment, their opinion on my journey doesn't matter at that point of time. Now, it's a funny thing. It's a very thin line to traverse because it doesn't matter, yet it matters a lot. It doesn't matter because the way I see it, now that I'm standing at this pedestal when I'm speaking, I'm at a level where, I am being talked to. People are listening to me. So I'm already at a step where I command that respect. I don't need to prove anything to anyone then. I'm already at that pedestal. That's how I see it. Having said that, I like to connect with people. That is where empathy comes in. And you have to block out all thoughts. And it doesn't come easily. To some, it comes naturally. To some, it doesn't. I totally understand it. To those who it doesn't come naturally to, I just want to tell them, don't take yourself so seriously. This one statement changed me. You're not that serious for someone else. You don't matter that much to someone else. As heartbreaking as it may sound, you don't. I mean, he'll just think about you for a minute, even if you fumbled, and then he'll be busy on his or her mobile, and then they have a life to lead. They'll not even think about you. Whereas you in your mind, you're thinking that they're all discussing you. They're all making fun of you. They're all carrying home with that stupid image of yours where you made a mess. You don't matter that much to them. That's the good thing. If you goof up, you don't matter that much. If you do well, you matter because they carry the good message with you. So you're in a win-win proposition.
That's interesting.
That's how I see it. That's how I see it.
So another interesting thing. So people have listened to this interview so far, and I hope many of them are convinced that public speaking is a very important skill hai. But for those that still are on the fence about public speaking, I think the best way to convince them would be to describe why you think personal public speaking is an important skill.
As I told you, every single minute of the day, you are thinking of either conversing with someone or doing something where conversation is important. It doesn't matter to me whether it's one person, whether you're talking to your boss, trying to negotiate for a salary hike, or if you're talking to your team members, trying to communicate to them what the next plan of action is, or you're trying to explain to your mom and dad what your future plans are. It's about public speaking eventually. It's about telling a story. You're telling a story. That's how I see it. You're telling them the why, what, and how. And only if you're coherent enough will you cut ice with them. Otherwise, even your best suggestions would be reduced to the bin. So that is important. That is very, very important. And it's sad that it hasn't been given that much of a relevance. Today, in this country, some of the finest people who are doing well are good public speakers. You take a look, you'll see many of them. Of course, there are some performing arts where your performing art matters. But even there, though they might not be public speakers in the conventional sense where you don't see them addressing a gathering, they are communicating well within their close circle to get their work done. How do you build up teams to run a business? How do you get clients to build up a business? It's all coming down to public speaking. How do you clear interviews to get a good job? So it's I think important everywhere.
True. And nowadays, I think public speaking is even more important because we're all working from home, and it doesn't seem like it's going to go anywhere for a long time to come. So another question is, when you're on a Zoom call or when you're on on any other online meeting, how do you make those meetings more uplifting, more interesting? Otherwise, these become quite monotonous. So how do you do that?
So it's not something that's going to come to you instantly. It's something that you have to work on. For me, it comes very naturally because this is what I do. So, I'm able to get them together very, very quickly. But it's something that you have to work on gradually. As you start speaking, you understand your own style. Am I uplifting, or am I able to grab attention, or am I able to get them to work, or am I funny enough? It's relative for everyone. And slowly with practice, you tend to know what pauses work, what words really work. If I open the house, it becomes messy. So I'll not open the house. I'll take it one by one. So it's all, a lot of failures, glitches, goof ups, and then boom, you suddenly start striking the right note. It's not a, linear thing where suddenly you'll wake up and suddenly you'll be garlanded and welcomed by everyone. That's not how it works. It's a process, just like anything. And a lot of people work on so many different crafts, but not this craft, which is actually the most effective one. You pick up anyone who says, oh, this one has a great personality. You will find out that somewhere, the fact that he or she has a great personality is coming from the fact that they're good conversationalists.
True. Makes a lot of sense. Now, we're close to our time. So if there's one final key piece of advice that you'd like to offer our listeners, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. There'll be two. One is a self-awareness. What ticks you the most? You got to find out. And you got to be comfortable with failure. Because you're never going to find out who or what you are until and unless you've experienced certain failures. I was in my 12th standard when I started dabbling in so many things. I did theater. I started public speaking. I was a debater. Then I started writing for television. Then I started writing for films. Then I thought, no, novels are the place where I want to go. Then I started doing public speaking. So I have been trying and testing so many things, whether it's columns, whether it's TV debates. And that's how it should be. Start trying and don't be afraid of failure. Just don't be afraid of failure. It doesn't last. If you're a cricket fan, I'll tell you this. People forget the 2007 World Cup that India lost. People forget 2015, but they all remember the 2011 World Cup, which India won. And every year they celebrate it on 2nd April. Why? Because a success lasts a lifetime. Failures are forgotten. That's the unbelievable bias we humans enjoy. So you're just one success away, one at bat, and you might hit a home run.
Well, that's wonderful advice. So thank you so much, Karan, for coming on.
My
The show.
pleasure.
Really
My
appreciate
pleasure,
it.
Rajdeep.